unamused, not entertained at all. See what I mean? She's like, pay attention to me. Pay attention to me and don't record. Don't pay attention to books. Why can't I say wanted? Wanted. Wanted. Let's see what we're feeling. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. For those of you that are new here, my name is Rochelle, and today what we're gonna go over is the mid-year book freakout tag. Honestly, I was going back and forth because I saw some people went and made videos for this already, and then a lot of other people that I follow on Booktube haven't yet. So I was like, is it time? Is it not time? But honestly, I don't really know what video to go and post because I haven't been doing a lot of reading. So this kind of felt perfect to go and film it now just so that we can get it out of the way. Also, I was looking at something, and last year was my first year on Booktube, and so this is my second year doing it. And down in the description, I kind of mark off how many subscribers I had at the time, and I was blown away. When I made this video last year, I had around 300 subscribers, and this time I'm almost close to 2,000, which is just absolutely mind-blowing that there's almost 2,000 of y'all that have been here to see any of the book videos I've been making, want to hear me chat about books. It's just so awesome to go and look back on and reflect. Anyway, you're here for me to do the mid-year book freakout tag, and so I should probably get started on those questions. I wrote down all the questions in my notebook, so with that being said, let's get started. We also have Nugget, who's looking very unamused, not entertained at all. You know how she is when I talk about books. So first question is, what is the best book you've read this year? So this one was a little bit tricky because I really want to make sure that I'm not mentioning the same book for multiple questions. So I decided that I'm going to try to limit how many times I mention certain books. There's definitely a lot of other books that I've really enjoyed reading this year, but the one that I want to mention for this question specifically is The Grace Year by Kim Liggett. This book was so different from anything else I've read before. With this book, basically, once a girl turns 16, she's sent away to this camp to basically rid herself of this magic that she has. The magic that each of these girls apparently has when they reach the age of 16 is so powerful that it will lead men to cheat on their wives. Their skin is basically an aphrodisiac, and when these girls end up getting sent away to the camp, no one knows what happens during this grace year, but sometimes girls will not end up returning, but some parts of their bodies will. Those will be sold on this black market because of the power that basically is contained in the girls' body parts and in their skin. But I truly loved this book. It was so interesting and intriguing to me. Not too many people here on Booktube have read this book, and that's honestly a shame because I think that everyone should read this book and pick it up. It's just so different. It's one of those types of books that really makes you question, like, is this magic real? Is this something that's just made up and ingrained in these people to go and believe on, or is the magic real? Like, are these girls actually able to do these things? It was such a fascinating read, and honestly an underrated book that everyone should get the chance to read at least one time in their life. I wish I could reread this again for the first time ever. It was just that good. Second question is, what is the best sequel you've read? And honestly, I have not read too many book series. I've started and read the first book in a series, but I haven't really continued. That was very ladylike, Nugs. But I haven't really continued on with a book series, which I definitely need to work on. But when I was kind of looking through my story graph and seeing all the different books that I've read, I did go and find a couple. So one of them was a reread, which is Endless Night by Cressley Cole. It's a part of the Arcana Chronicles. This book series is very dystopian, kind of reminds me a little bit of the Hunger Games, just with the fact that the main characters are all based off of the major Arcana cards in the tarot deck, and they each have these special powers that they're able to use once the flash happens and the game basically starts. Oh, hi, Nugs. Hi. Thank you. Basically, this game starts and all the major arcana basically come into their power, and the thing is, they have to fight against each other, and the goal is basically to kill all of these other characters that are playing this game and get their symbols tattooed on their arms, and whoever has the most and whoever is still alive at the end of it wins. And then basically the competition will start again after a certain amount of years. This series is one of my absolute favorites, and I still have not finished it yet. I think I have 1 or 2 books left, and it's just one of those book series that I've just enjoyed so much and don't want it to end, but at the same time I want to know what happens. So I'll include this one on one of my favorite sequels in a series. But as far as a book that wasn't a reread and was the first time reading, this was Deathless Divide. This is the second book for Dread Nation. This is kind of a Civil War retelling, but add zombies in it. And I'm really someone that absolutely loves zombies. Zombies are one of my guilty pleasures, whether it's books, movies, video games, any of those things. So I did go on to continue the series. I think it's only a duology. And honestly, this wasn't one of my favorites, but it was one of the few sequels that I've read that I could count for this. And honestly, if I were to pick, the first book was definitely my favorite. There was a lot more zombies and fighting and survival, and in this one, it just kind of seemed a little bit lackluster for me and was missing a lot of things that the first book had that I truly enjoyed. But yeah, I think if you're trying to diversify your bookshelves, this would be a great series to go and read, especially with it being a historical fiction. It just was something different and not like any of the other books that I've read. Then number 3 is, what are some new releases that you haven't read yet but want to? This was one of the questions that was a little bit harder for me because honestly, there's so many books. You've seen all of my past book hauls. I have so many books that have released this year that I've really wanted to get to. But just to name a couple, as I say, pulling out this huge stash of books. One would be King of Ashes by S.A. Cosby. I got an ARC for this one from Flatiron, and it actually released this month, so in June. And this is kind of one of those crime fiction thrillers. I did start reading this, and I've just been in such a reading slump for the month of June that truthfully reading has been very difficult for me to do. It's just been a very slow process. So since this book has already released, I did find out that there's an audiobook available, and I've been doing a bit of tandem reading, jumping back and forth between reading it physically and listening to it as an audiobook. Honestly, the audiobook, the narrator is absolutely amazing for this. So if you've been wanting to pick this up, but you're not sure if you want to read it physically, highly recommend listening to the audiobook. But since I still haven't finished this book, I felt like this one was really fitting for this question, as well as The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. I have the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition, and it's honestly beautiful. This was the poll pick for my Defend the TBR episode for the month of June, and I finally started reading this last night, and it has been an anticipated read for me, but I've just been in such a reading slump that picking up books and everything is just not something that's coming easily to me right now. But this has been a very anticipated read for me, and I'm so glad that I finally started reading it. But I also wanted to include this for this question as well, since I haven't finished reading this book either. And then a few others would be technically The Perfect Divorce by Geneva Rose, but I haven't even read The Perfect Marriage by her, so obviously like these two books go together and I need to read them. So I just decided to include these two as well. Also, I just love the blood dripping sprayed edges. I just think they're absolutely beautiful, and maybe that is something concerning to say about me, but I don't mind. But yeah, this is another one that I really would like to read, and Charles and I have kind of joked a few times about making like a TikTok or a reel or something. I was very confused. It's like, who is tickling my arm? And that would be Cicero. Hi. Hello, little one. Did you want to? No. You wanted to say hi. You guys say hi. Yeah. Okay. He's done saying hi. And then another one for anticipated releases. This one technically could fit into a different question, but it's out July 1st. And this is A Forbidden Alchemy by Stacey McEwen. This was one that I got in the mail, and I was so excited to. Especially since I recently became an influencer for Saga Press. And when I got this in the mail, I was just stunned beyond belief because I was so excited to read this book, and I was fully planning on going and purchasing a copy for myself so I could read it, because I didn't feel like the chance of me getting an ARC would happen at all. So yeah, this is another one that I've really been wanting to read. A lot of my mutual friends that either do Book Talk, Bookstagram, or Booktube that have received a copy and have read this already have said nothing but good things. So I've been very excited to go and pick this one up as well. And I'll probably have this in my reading vlog that I'm currently working on, where I'm trying to complete my TBR for June before July hits. And I only have a week left, and yeah. How am I supposed to film when you're doing this? She doesn't care, she just wants love. Then moving on to question number 4, what is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year? And honestly, I have so many. I think I've talked about them in past videos, especially since a lot of these books were ones that I somehow ended up getting accepted for through NetGalley, so I'm fully planning on reading those as soon as I can. First one would be Hollow by Taylor Groth, and this one I'm a part of this author's street team. I do plan on reading this book for the month of June, so I'm hoping that I can get to it, but I believe it releases in September if I'm not mistaken. And then another one is I, Medusa by Ayana Gray. I love anything in Greek mythology that is based around Medusa. Medusa is one of my absolute favorite characters. I just feel like she deserves so much more justice than what happened to her. So getting to reread her story and seeing her get the justice that she deserves is one of my favorite things. So this book is something that I'm super excited to finally pick up and get the chance to read. And then another one is Dating After the End of the World by Geneva Rose. This one is an apocalypse, trying to date during an apocalypse, but also add zombies. It's just everything I love in a book, and it was just like, it was absolutely made for me. Before I met my fiance, when I created my Hinge profile, I had a question on my profile that was, what is the best zombie apocalypse survival or what are the traits for the best zombie apocalypse survival partner? That was one of the questions I had on my Hinge profile, because I was like, I'm a nerd. I read books, but I also love zombies and play video games. I need someone that knows what they're walking into if they want to date me. And Charles didn't actually answer that question when he reached out to me, but I believe he answered it on one of our dates. So yeah, obviously you can see why this book is one that I'm super excited for and is right up my alley. I can't wait to read it. I have it on NetGalley, I just haven't had the chance to start it just yet. Number 5 is Biggest Disappointment. This one, I definitely have a couple. First off would be Their Monstrous Hearts by Nugget Turnhan. I listened to this one as an audiobook, and this was my first book that I've ever rated 1 star. I just did not like this book at all. I was rolling my eyes. I was getting so annoyed with the characters. It was just a book that I had no fun listening to at all, and I honestly should have DNF'd it, but I believe I got it through NetGalley, and I was like, no, let's try to finish it. We've gotten this far. And I didn't like it. Maybe my experience would have been different if I read it physically instead of listening to it as an audiobook, because one of the narrators that was voicing the grandma character, just the way she voiced and talked about the character was so whiny and so annoying. It was one that I kid you not, I was rolling my eyes multiple times and constantly looking at how much longer I had left in the book, wondering when it was going to end. Then the other book I'd probably say would be They Bloom at Night by Trang Tan Tran. This was my first ever physical ARC that I've received in the mail, and I got this one through Bloomsbury. This one, I guess, just wasn't exactly what I would have expected. There was some body horror in it, and body horror I'm kind of learning is something that I just don't do well with. It really makes my skin crawl and triggers my trichotillomania. So this one just wasn't exactly what I had thought it would be. I thought it would be a lot more apocalyptic, and instead this kind of felt more of a new age book, kind of discovering yourself, also with some horror aspects in the process. It just didn't turn out to be at all what I expected it to be. I still really do love the cover, and I will keep this copy obviously, since it is one of my first ARCs and is something that I would like to memorialize and remember. But yeah, other than that, this one was kind of a letdown for me. Number 6 is What Was Your Biggest Surprise? This one honestly would probably be Lights Out by Navisa Allen. And the biggest surprise for this is because I'm not really someone that goes out of my way to read erotica, read smut, anything along those lines. I'm not usually a romance girly, but after reading Their Monstrous Hearts, I was in the need of a huge genre shift, a huge change in what I was consuming out of the books I picked up. I needed something completely different. And I believe I had a credit on Everend, and I was like, you know what? Let's go and check out Lights Out. Let's see what it's all about. I've heard so many people raving about it. It's completely out of my norm of books that I read. Let's see what we're feeling. And honestly, I really liked it. I loved that there were two different narrators. Reading books that have two different narrators in them, especially for more spicy books, is something that I'm learning I really do enjoy. It's not as cringy. Yes, there are still cringy moments, but when it's voiced by different characters, it kind of makes it a little bit more immersive and takes away some of that cringe, if it makes sense. But I thought this was a really interesting book. Yes, it involves a stalker and this romance that ends up coming out of it, which is so weird and definitely not something that I think anyone should do in real life. You know, there's a lot of red flags there, let's just say. But I just enjoyed it. I thought it was so different, and I am definitely planning on continuing reading the series, listening to it through an audiobook, because it really did surprise me. I was so shocked with how much I enjoyed it. And if you're thinking about picking up that book as well, I would highly recommend listening to it as an audiobook as well. Number 7 is new favorite author. And I have a couple for this one. So first would be J.C. Lynn, who wrote For Whom the Bell Tolls. I really loved her writing style and just the way she created her characters to have this sass and this snark. It just made it so enjoyable. And especially with this book being as chunky as it is, that writing style really made it so easy to go through the book and not feel like it was dragging at all, not wondering like, is it over yet? This was actually a book that I just didn't want it to end. And I know she's currently working on the second book in the series, and she's kind of automatically become an instant buy for me, so I'm very excited to continue reading her books as well. Another author would be Alicia E. Anderson. This was also a very similar piece where I just loved her writing style. I got her book The Enchanted Isles through NerdFam, and I absolutely loved the book. I loved the characters. This was kind of a bigger than a love triangle, kind of wide shoes type of thing, and I was just loving every second of it. I enjoyed every single character in the book, and that's not something that usually happens. I feel like I'm usually swayed more to like a few characters and not all of them, and then there's a few characters that I absolutely dislike, and that wasn't the case with her book. I loved every single character. So yeah, both of these authors were kind of different, but both of their writing styles really spoke to me, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Question number 8 is newest fictional crush. And for this one, I have a couple. One would be Rhett Eaton from Flawless by Elsie Silver. Yes, I'm reading more romance. I think I am entering my romance era, which is very, very weird for me. But Rhett Eaton, he was like that masculine, grumpy cowboy, but also very much a gentleman and a softie. I really enjoyed his character, and it just brought so much nostalgia for my hometown. Like I've said before, I'm from a small town, so reading stuff that has like horses, cowboys, rodeos, it's very nostalgic for me. That's something I grew up around, and I had a crush on this character. A few other crushes that I would have would be pretty much most of the male love interests in The Enchanted Isles by Alicia E. Anderson. Like I was mentioning earlier in the previous question, I loved how she wrote all of the characters in her book, and I was really struggling for who I wanted the main character to go and choose, and it seems like maybe this might change in the next book, which I'm not quite sure how comfortable I feel with that, because I did love the person she decided on at the end of the book. But like I said, I do also love the other male love interests, so I'm kind of going back and forth on who I want more, who I'm okay with her turning down. I'm not sure, because I like all of them. I love the different qualities of each of those male interests. So yeah, surprisingly, I did have a few crushes out of the books that I read this year, which I'm not too upset about. Then moving on to question number 9, who are some of your newest favorite characters? I also have a couple from that for this question as well. So first one would be Lily from For Whom the Bell Tolls. I really loved this character. She just was very sassy and very badass. She didn't back down from things that made her upset and speaking her mind. I just loved that. And she was also very caring and very sweet. She just had all of these different qualities that I absolutely loved. And also she was a huge nerd and she wasn't afraid to speak out about it. So yeah, Lily would probably be a character that I would love to have as a friend. I feel like she would just make life so much more interesting, and she wouldn't be afraid to stand up for what's right, which would also kind of rub off on me and make me become a little less introverted, because I feel like I can get very brave at times, but not as much as I'd like. But yeah, I really, really, really liked Lily in this book. I loved how she was written. She was definitely one of my favorite female main characters in any of the books that I've read this year so far. And then kind of on the opposite side of that would be Summer Hamilton from Flawless by Elsie Silver. I just loved the people pleaser aspect of her and could so relate to that with wanting to make sure like everyone was happy and no one was upset or any of those things, that you get so wrapped up in that sometimes you forget like you should also put yourself first as well. And so Summer was just one of those characters that I feel like I would have been so mama bear over and wanting to kind of push her to be like, no, you deserve to have good things too. But no, like you deserve to have good things too. So she definitely was a character that I really loved. So two complete opposite characters, but both were ones that I really loved and really enjoyed and would love to have them be in my friend group. Number 10 is, what is a book that made you cry? There's probably a bunch of other books that made me cry, but one that really stuck out to me was Only the Beautiful by Suzanne Mesner. And this was one that was just such an emotional read because the main character basically is working for this family and ends up becoming pregnant. And she's underage, not married, and suddenly is cast out from this home that she's in, and is told that she can go and go through with the pregnancy. However, she can't go and raise this child due to her age and the fact that she doesn't have a home and is unwed. This book had a few different flashbacks where you're seeing things from this character's point of view and then seeing things up to a certain point in her adulthood before it switches on to this character that she actually was kind of friends with, but mostly through letters, but this person had a significant part in her life whether she knew it or not. There just were so many really deep, touching moments in this book, also with the fact that this was also happening when Hitler and Nazi Germany was in the process, and he also was targeting people that had disabilities. So there was some disability representation and significant history in this book, and as a disabled individual, it really was very emotional and hit the heartstrings quite a bit with going and reading about that. So this was a book that I really did enjoy, even though it was sad and difficult to get through. That's why it made me cry, but definitely one that I highly recommend for others to read. I feel like I don't know too many people that have read this book, aside from my book bestie, who was the one that I first heard about it through. Then moving on to a topic that's a little bit happier, we're gonna go with question number 11, which is, what is a book that made you happy? And I'd say Bingsu for Two by Sujin Witherspoon. This was such a cute book and a really sweet read. I got this one from Union Square & Co. and it was just such a cute book. This was a little bit more like enemies to lovers, co-workers in this bingsu cafe. Honestly, before this book, I had bingsu, I think a couple of times, but I didn't actually know what it was called because the place that I had first ordered it from was a bit more Americanized. So after reading this book, I was like, we need to go and get some bingsu. And honestly, I was obsessed with it for a hot minute. It was just such a sweet treat. But this book was so cute, where the main character is kind of spiraling and isn't exactly sure what he wants to do with his life. He's working at his parents' company and he's in a relationship that he's not fully satisfied with. And he also walks out of the SATs and basically fails it. So he's basically upturning his life and comes upon this small little cafe and decides like, I want to work here. And the thing is, this was actually a cafe that he tried to put out of business by working through his parents' company, and they're kind of knocking out all these smaller bingsu places because they've become a bit of a corporation. And through the process of this, our main character kind of learns that he loves the small business, and this has all the qualities that he used to love so much when his parents first started their business, but kind of lost touch of once they grew bigger and bigger. This was just so cute, and I loved a lot of the little cultural details in it. I thought this was such a sweet read, you know, because it's about desserts. I don't think too many people that I'm friends with have read this either, and honestly that's such a shame because it is such a cute book. I was laughing, blushing, kicking my feet. I absolutely loved this book and highly recommend it. 12 is, what is the most beautiful book you've purchased this year? And if you've seen any of my book hauls, you know I've purchased quite a few books. But to name a couple, I'd say Watch Me by Tara Maffei. I really love how beautiful the cover is, and I also do really love these sprayed edges. Kind of has this like holographic look to it, and it's so beautiful. Have I read the Shatter Me series yet? No, I haven't, but I fully plan on doing so, but why not also pick up the stunning edition as well. Then I also have Fable for the End of the World by Ava Reed. This was another book that I was so excited to go and pick up. Love the sprayed edges, and then the cover under the dust jacket is just absolutely beautiful too. So that's another beautiful book that I've purchased. And then another one of my favorites is this one. It is the Italian version of Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. We all know Hannah Bonham Young is one of my favorite authors, and Out on a Limb is one of my all-time favorite books. So when I saw this edition, I had to go and pick it up. It has these beautiful sprayed edges with plants, which is what our main character Win absolutely loves. And then on the inside cover, we get Win and Bo dancing to records in Bo's house. And then it has this beautiful image on the front as well of our main couple. So this one is probably one of my prized possessions, as well as another book that was absolutely beautiful that I purchased this year. Last question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? And honestly, a lot of these books that you see here on my bookshelves, plus even ones that I've mentioned in this video that I have yet to read. I also have Wicked Readings Horror Bingo that I need to do. I think I've barely made a dent or even had a single bingo, and I'm doing the hard mode version of her board. I also have my own summer bingo that I'm doing, and I believe I'm gonna make my summer bingo probably end when the school year starts, because my fiance, he's an elementary school counselor, so my seasons of the year kind of go along with his seasons for his school. My summer bingo I have until his school year starts back up. Yeah, like I said, all these other books, there's so many great books that I need to read. I have a bunch of them on my NetGalley. I just feel like I'm currently swimming in books, and with this reading slump, it's really making it hard for me to make a dent in those at the moment. But I'm hoping that after finishing The Night and the Moth and King of Ashes, that might help get the ball rolling a little bit and help me read a little bit more. But yeah, I think with that being said, that would be my answer for that question, is just so many books, not enough time, and I somehow have the mindset that I'm gonna read a bunch of them before the year ends. We shall see if that happens. If you'd like to go and answer any of these questions, I'd love to hear your answers to them down in the comments below. I'll have all these questions listed in my description box as well, so you can read through those. I'd love to hear, like, what books do you want to read before the end of the year? What books are your anticipated reads that are coming out in the second half of the year? Please let me know. We know my TBR is ever growing, and I honestly have no problem adding more books to that list. But as always, if you like this video, please leave a like. Maybe go and watch some of my past videos. I have my summer bingo, my book haul videos, I have how to go and get an ARC. I have a lot of those different videos, so definitely a lot that you can catch up on if you'd like to stay here for a while and watch more of my videos. Always happy to have you here. But as always, I want to remind you that you're worthy and capable of amazing things. Bye, friends.